Hello, everyone. Before we begin, I want to let everyone know that I'm not a medical doctor, a spiritual master, or an expert of any kind. I'm just a country pumpkin sharing his theoretical perspective for entertainment purpose only. And the topic for entertainment today is suffering and enlightenment. And this concept usually mainly with Buddhism, because people are taught to believe that we have many vices. Because of those vices, we are suffering, and we can transcend suffering to reach enlightenment through overcoming our vices. That when we become enlightened, everything will be bliss and happy, and that is disinformation. Because when we become enlightened, we understand the rules of the game more. It does not mean when we become what you call mm, uh, an NPC, a bot. It does not mean we stop being able to feel the pain and the suffering of other people. On the contrary, we are even more sensitive to that. We can feel more intensely the suffering, the pain, even the happiness of other people. But what's the difference is that we are not becoming the horror film director within our mind and one with those emotions and those mental body concepts. We become the observer, and we're able to feel and understand what people are going through. We feel at a deeper level those pain and suffering. That's why we become more empathic or empathetic to people, because we can feel more of those pain. It does not mean we're in bliss and heaven 24/7 because we have become enlightened and all the suffering is gone. It is just gone within our uh, mind. Because the way we in Buddhism or life taught us to perceive suffering is just more like a propaganda. And it's more like draining it's the tool to train the emotional body, to milk it to the maximum level, instead of having it just it's just an experience. Yes, it's painful, but don't drag it to extreme like suffering, hell kind of suffering. Yes, the situation in my life is painful. It saddens my heart, or it's tragic things happen, but don't pull or be a drama queen about it and blow it up to out of proportion. Just as we have happy situations in life, there is also unhappy, tragic events. And it's just a balance. And whether it's good or bad, uh, from our perspective, it is what can we learn from it. Even the situation are happy, well, and good doesn't mean there's no lesson from it. And then people think of lessons, that things of from unexpected, bad, unhappy, not happy stuff. Just especially when we are being taught that because of our vices, our greed, and all that stuff, when we let go of all those stuff, then we able to attain high level of understanding, to higher realm. But in the country, it's more like how are those what you call vices being applied? You can't just apply it flat to every situation, to every person at the same thing. Just like water can float a boat and it can sink a boat. Water can kill us and sustain us. When we drink too much water, bye-bye. When we don't drink enough water, bye-bye. The same thing with our weaknesses, our vices, moderation. We can become enlightened. We can become awakened when we can balance those two and live a more fulfilling, meaningful life at a deep level, satisfy ourselves deeply when we live a life, express our life to the fullest, when we keep those vices, moderation in check. They still exist, but we can apply them a bit more in a positive context. If you become too righteous, just like water, you can be, it can sink the boat or drown us. Self-righteous can be a good thing or a bad thing. That's just an example of how things, what you call, or more people think of greed. Greed for not just wealth, reputation, honor. When it applied the wrong way, depends what more important is the intention behind it. Your soul can use greed to seek attention, use your what you call your ego to redirect you a certain way, to behave a certain way, to be different, to not to walk the same path. Everybody's stuck within the matrix, within the system. Here you are trying to gain popularity, gain what you call honor, gain recognition, to greed for attention, to be different, then you being redirected to walk a different path and say, okay, want to show people, want to shock people how different you are. Instead of going through traditionally, now you're going organically. You're trying to prove to people that you're better. That's one way your soul use your weakness, what you call your weakness, to be in a more positive context. So vices is not a bad thing. It's dependent how it's being used, how it's being directed, the intention behind it, and how it's being used in moderation, just like sugar and other stuff you consume in your life, moderation. What more important is the intention that you and how we want to live. What we're being brainwashed and propagandized and being limited is to focus too much on that specific situation alone, instead of looking at a positive context of existence and a bigger picture. How does it play in overall our life goal, our experience of consciousness and awareness, and our lesson in life, what we need to learn and what stage we're at? And instead of looking at suffering as a negative things, it is a tool to help us appreciate what we have. Through that unexpected death in the family, now I value my friends and family that's still alive more. I value life more. I don't take things for granted. Through that you call suffering, I become enlightened. I don't focus on the suffering. Yes, it's painful for that moment. And from that, I learn an appreciation for those around me and for life. I understand life lessons. So I don't get stuck in blaming because I'm suffering. I'm experiencing the suffering because of karma, because of what I did in the past, and get stuck with the emotional, the grief, the sadness that is being milked by Buddhism, by religion, and by those around us, being run by the matrix to feed that feeling and get stuck in the mental body and playing all those director games in our mind and what should be, could be, had been, and get stuck in the past or future, but not in the present, to live life in the fullest and to deal, to accept what has happened. So those vices, what we call bad, to transcend, to forgive, but those are just learning. They are creating situation in our life where we can learn, understand, transcend, to experience or knowing. It does not mean we have to give up those bad things 100% to become enlightened. What become enlightened is what we learn from that situation. We learn not to be trapped within that victimizer game, blaming, and get caught in that suffering of the moment and become our whole life and play it over and over and over, just like a broken record. It is a tool that being used to trap us in an event that already happened, and we have to relive it 1,000 and 10,000 times every single day for an event that just happened once. Suffering has been a tool been used to trap us in an event that already happened and we cannot move forward, because it's feeding on our emotional and mental body, feeding us with regret, anger, frustration, disappointment. It's just milking us, the system milking us for every ounce of suffering they can get by keeping us in that scenario, that situation that has already passed, and we can move on. It's not trying to teach us how to accept, acknowledge, learn from it, and move on from it. And suffering as part of life, as part of learning scenario, one scenarios after another, just as happy events, learning, so that we don't take things for granted, so that when we become dependent. But that's a different topic. What I'm trying to say here is that when people become awakened and enlightened, it's not just happy and bliss, love and light. That is disinformation, fake information. Yes, we'll become more happier because we're able to live a fuller, meaningful life. But just like I said earlier, happiness and sadness is just part of our life. We go through it, full awareness, consciously, and let's pass through us and not hold on to it for generation and generation and lifetime after lifetime, or how long you want to hold on to that so-called suffering. Okay, thank you, and wish you luck exploring more on this topic.